Hey crawlers, I'm Stiltskin. Welcome back. Let's get going here. We are going down to dungeon level 6. And one thing that is interesting to note, the very first time you go down onto a floor, you're not really at any kind of extra risk. The enemies down there will not get a turn or anything like that. However, if you have already been to a floor and then you go back to it, then it actually takes more than one turn. It takes a pretty good chunk of time. So just something to keep in mind. Very first time we go down, it's going to be pretty easy or pretty safe to go down. But after that, you're going to be looking at a little bit more risk. We will run into the lair soon-ish, not right away. And the lair is where things can get a little more interesting. Although the really early game, even though obviously the enemies are weaker, you're weaker too. And if you've played Dungeon Crawl, you probably know the early game is really dangerous. The whole game is dangerous. So just to keep in mind. This is a Sky Beast. Sometimes they turn invisible, but he shouldn't be too big of a threat to us. I just kind of wanted to check and make sure that his damage was about where I thought it was. He should be pretty good to kill. I say that and then probably end up dying, but no, not this time. We can talk about mutations because purple corpses like this Sky Beast here, if you butcher them, you get mutagenic chunks of flesh. I'm not going to eat these. I actually saw a little article, someone did the statistics on win rates and mutating yourself and all these things, and they found that if you mutate yourself early on purpose, you're less likely to win. I still do it sometimes because it's fun, but I'm going to teach you how to play well and not just goof around and do silly things. This is an Orc Priest, and he's a good guy to look at. Orc Priests are responsible for a whole lot of murders because they can smite. And smite goes through everything. Does not get affected by armor class, any kind of resistance. They can hit you from anywhere, even if there's a guy in the way. So Orc Priests are pretty scary. They don't have very much health, but they do a lot of damage and there's no way to stop it. So we could run away from this guy, but we're going to be in his line of sight for at least a couple turns if we do. Or we could approach him and try to attack him. There are some enemies over here. So we've got a Scorpion, we've got at least one Orc Wizard and one regular Orc. And Orcs tend to come in groups, so there could even be more. Normally, if it was just the Priest, I would approach him. But I don't want to get closer to that Priest and then get all that other attention too. So I'm going to run toward the stairs. If the Priest follows and we're not too low on health, I'm going to kill him. Otherwise, I'm just going to go up the stairs. But you really don't want to underestimate Orc Priests. It might seem like, oh, he's just hitting you for a little bit, and then suddenly you're dead, and there's nothing that you can do to stop it if you wait too long. So we're just going to play it safe, and it worked out. And you'll notice here that I'm always positioning myself to make it take the enemies as long as possible to get next to me, just because that means I'm getting hit less. It's always going to be less risky. Taking a look at our skills here, it's looking like Conjurations is pretty good. But other than just looking at what your skill's like, more importantly, you want to look at your spell success rates. So we're going to take a look here. We have a really good success rate for Flame Tongue and Conjure Flame. Those are solid. The spell power's pretty strong on those now, so those are looking pretty good. Sticky Flame we have not actually used yet is a very powerful spell. 8% is not bad at all for a failure rate. It could be a little better. I'm thinking, though, we might want just a little bit in spellcasting now. You don't want to go too overboard on spellcasting because it won't help your spell success rates nearly as much as the spell school, and it also doesn't actually increase your spell power. But what it does do is give you more mana. It does other things too. Like it gives you more spell levels to memorize, it makes the hunger cost lower, but the only reason I'm leveling it right now is because it gives me more mana and it costs very little. So right now spellcasting is just at 2.5, and you'll see it costs 3.6 experience to go from 2 to 3, whereas it would take 13 to go from 10 to 11 conjurations. So I probably will get spellcasting to about 4 or 5, just because it costs very little experience at this point. And I want a few extra magic points just to last a little longer in fights. This is going to be a case where normally I would back up to get less line of sight, but this Orc Wizard can be casting spells at me while I do that, and he could confuse me, which would stop me from being able to cast any magic. I don't want that, so I'm just going to focus on trying to kill the Orc Wizard as quickly as possible. Going to take Intelligence again, and then we're going to back up like I wanted to before. Now that we have a little space, or the other wizard's dead. We have another wizard now, though. He's at the very edge of our line of sight, so I was comfortable running away from him because he has to move to get back into line of sight. He was not actually able to cast a spell at me that whole time. And then I'm just going to go upstairs. That might seem like I'm being overly cautious, and probably I am, but it's a lot better to be overly cautious than not cautious enough. It's a very good rule of thumb. Giant frogs. You might see a frog and think like, oh, that's a pretty weak enemy. They're not incredibly strong, but they're stronger than you might expect. So be careful with frogs. They're also fast, so they're hard to run away from. But as you can see, we were doing okay. It took a little while there at the end. We got them. Not too bad. I'm not going to try and play 100% perfectly either, but anytime something looks dangerous, I'm going to be a lot more serious about it. So sometimes you'll see me do things like approach enemies, even though you don't really often want to approach enemies, stuff like that. But for the most part, I'm going to try and play it safe. The Orc Wizard went invisible, so I'm just going to go upstairs and wait, and then go back downstairs, and I can see him again. Yeah, good job, guy. Really accomplished a lot there, didn't you? Now you're dead. If you were so smart, how come you're dead? Oh, here's an interesting thing. We have auto pickup in this game, and so that's what is picking up things like chunks of flesh, potions, scrolls, that sort of thing. But you'll notice when I butchered this guy, it didn't pick up the flesh. Why? What's going on? Well, it's because the game is smart enough to help you out. When that Orc Wizard went invisible, if we look at the history, you can actually see here that as soon as he vanished, it deactivated auto pickup. Now, normally, when you kill the invisible enemy, then it's going to reactivate that for you. But because we went upstairs and then came back and he was visible, it's still off. So I just hit Control-A to turn that back on. So if you ever have auto pickup off and you're not really sure why that happened, probably it's for that reason. You ran away from an invisible enemy while it was still invisible. And yeah, but it's really easy to turn back on. This is an imp, again, like we saw last episode. They're immune to fire, so basically just using Frost Breath on him. We got an amulet. I would very rarely put on an amulet that's not identified because you have a lot to lose, especially if you put on, like, say, an amulet of faith when you already have high piety. Right now we don't have much piety to lose, but there are other things that we probably don't want. And this is a good time to start reading our scrolls anyway. We have 5 of this kind of scroll. It's probably Identify. And we want to be able to access these scrolls in case we need them. So I'm going to read every scroll I have that I have more than one of. That way I know what it is and I still have some to use if I need it. The biggest stack was actually Teleportation. So that's a good thing. Now we know that we can teleport away if we need to. Let's do the next biggest stack. Remove Curse. Okay, cool. And recharging, we can recharge Ice Blast. So the reason it's good to wait a little bit on reading your scrolls is because we're getting a benefit, not really from teleportation, but from a lot of the other ones. So if we had read recharging before we had a wand, it would be wasted. If we read remove curse before we had a cursed item, it would be wasted, that sort of thing. It tends to be that you have more of scrolls like Identify and Teleportation because they're really common. So if you have a really big stack of scrolls, there's a very good chance that it's something like Identify or Teleport. Scroll of Random Uselessness is obviously useless. We have one more scroll where we have more than one, so let's read that. Hey, we got Identify. Cool. Now we know what this amulet does. It's an amulet of the Gourmand, so that's good because now we can eat chunks of flesh anytime, even if we're not hungry. It does take a little bit to kind of like pick up steam, and you don't really get much out of it until it does, but it doesn't take very long. It's just to prevent you from constantly switching amulets. Looking at the cost for spellcasting, 4 I think is going to be enough for now. I really just wanted a couple of points. I'm going to get some fighting, because it costs so little and will give us health. I don't want to do too much though, because Sif Muna actually gives you piety from increasing your spellcasting skills, not just from killing. She actually gives you way more piety from training spellcasting than she does from killing things. So it's pretty important to train spellcasting if you want to use Sif Muna and get your piety up. But fighting is so cheap right now, and we do want some defense. I'm going to do it. Fighting is going to give us more health, and because we're a Draconian, Draconians actually have slightly more health than average. I think they have 10% more than a human. Because of that, we get even more of a benefit from training fighting than, say, like a deep elf who has 30% less health than a human. So they still need it, definitely, but we get an even more of a benefit from training fighting. I'm not going to approach there because that centaur is still pretty dangerous to us. Instead, I'm going to explore just a little bit and see if there's a way to get close to him without him seeing. Don't think there's going to be a good way, though, unless we can circle around up here, possibly. You don't really want to engage a centaur from range if you can help it. This is a player ghost. Let's see how scary he is. It's extremely dangerous. It looks like he's a melee-only ghost, but he has a lot of health, and he can hit for up to 15 damage. We might be able to take him, but I would want to use Conjure Flame for sure. I do not want him to be next to me at all. He also has a vampiric weapon. So I think what I'm going to do is back up. I also don't really want to fight him with the centaur and the adder that close. So instead, I think what I'm going to do is just come down here and shout to try and get the centaur to follow. And then I'm going to come back around this corner over here so that when the centaur comes, I can hide from him, and then he has to come over here. So now we're next to him, and because we are, he uses his crappy melee instead of range. Much safer to fight him. Adder is not really that scary for us anymore. Ooh, bees are definitely scary. Let's talk about bees. So it says it looks dangerous. Doesn't look extremely dangerous, but here's what makes bees really scary. Part 1, they come in very large groups. Part 2, they're very fast. Like, you cannot run away from bees. It's not going to happen. They can fly, so they go over water, all that. They're tiny, which means they have really high evasion, so they're hard to hit. And they can just surround you so quickly because they're so fast. So if you're going to fight bees, you absolutely want to be in a hallway, especially as a caster. We're fortunate because we have Conjure Flame, which is going to provide a whole lot of protection to us. Normally, I would not want to even engage with bees like this. I would already have teleported away. But because we have Conjure Flame, it became much safer. They can't even get up to us, which is one of the reasons why Conjure Flame is just so good. However, you can see we're now out of mana, and the flame is running out. There's only 2 left, at least that we can see. But it's still not awesome that we're going to have to do this. We have our breath, though, and we also have a Wand of Ice Blast, so I think we should be okay. Oh, there's another bee. That's less okay. I might want to teleport out after I do this breath. Let's see if it kills one or not. It did kill one. Yeah, I really don't want to try and melee these bees, though, and especially not surrounded by them. So I'm just going to use a Scroll of Teleportation here, and we're just going to get out before anything too bad happens. Another thing that's annoying about bees is that if you teleport away but not that far, because they're so fast, even if they don't know where you are, they wander around and find you pretty quickly. They're really hard to get away from. We were lucky there because he didn't notice us, and so we're just going to run away, especially because there's this Orc Warrior down here, and an Orc Warrior is much, much, much scarier than a regular Orc, especially since that one has a Battle Axe, and we're low on mana. So we're just going to kill that regular Orc, rest and get our magic back. Much better now. Let's see, is this the same player ghost as before? It is. I don't want to fight him too close to unexplored territory or that Orc Warrior, so I'm going to get out of his line of sight as best I can and try and go elsewhere. I want the area to be pretty cleared before I fight a strong player ghost like that. I've only used Sticky Flame once so far, and the next time I do, I'm going to kind of point it out and talk about it a little more. The Sticky Flame is a very powerful spell. You do have to be in melee range to use it, but it's very efficient with mana. It costs 4, but it does an absurd amount of damage, and it does not miss. If you cast it on an enemy, they will be hit by it. So that's good. Unlike Flame Tongue and most other range spells that are less reliable because they can miss, Sticky Flame is really, really reliable. It's also good to use Sticky Flame because it can reveal invisible enemies. This Orc Warrior sees us now, and so I'm just going to back up a little bit further away from where those bees were earlier and maybe some other enemies. Make sure he's still following us because I want him to follow us. I don't think he knows where we are anymore. We're going to have to go find him. Oh, did not mean to melee him. Kind of hate when I do that. So I would like to have a Conjure Flame between me and this guy, and I don't. And this is actually somewhat risky because he has a Battle Axe. He's going to hit pretty hard. I don't really have any good escape abilities right now, so we really only have consumables to get away. I think what I'm going to do here, just because he's already next to me, I wouldn't normally do this, I'm going to use Sticky Flame, and then I'm going to back away. That's how you want to do it, because it's a damage over time spell. We actually got a gap between us, and I'm going to tell you why that most likely happened. So let's kind of look at the text that we have here. It says, the Sticky Flame hits the Orc Warrior. Okay, great, he's covered in flames. It was his turn. He attacked and missed us, and I was just walking away. It takes him more than 1.0 aughts, so units of time, to swing his axe, which gave me a chance to create a gap between us. So if an enemy hits you, or even just swings at you and misses, that can be a good time to back up one space and create a gap. And then you can drop your Conjure Flame, and it's a lot safer. We could have let him get close and done another Sticky Flame, and that probably also would have killed him. But I'd really just prefer to not be right next to an Orc Warrior with a Battle Axe. It's just kind of not a thing that I like. So that's how we're going to do it. I'm going to create some more distance between me and this Orc because I'm out of mana. But as soon as the flame goes away, I'm just going to hit him with some Frost Breath. No problem. Get all these chunks of flesh, and now I can eat all of them because of the Amulet of the Gourmand. Gourmand is not the most powerful amulet, but it is actually kind of nice as a spellcaster because you really just don't have to worry about hunger at all. You can spam your spells as much as you want, even the high level ones. You'll notice if we look at our spells, Flame Tongue now doesn't even cost hunger at all, but Sticky Flame costs 4 times as much as the Flame Tongue used to when we were lower level. So it costs a decent chunk of hunger. But now it's pretty safe for us to use it regardless, as far as hunger goes anyway. So yeah, pretty good to have this Gourmand amulet. Not going to be the strongest, but it's not bad at all. We do have a couple more Identify Scrolls, and I want to go ahead and use them. One on this Wand of Ice Blast so that it doesn't waste as many charges if I need to use it. And then I'm going to identify also a set of potions. Just because it's really good to know what consumables that you have in case you need them. And so you don't have to be in the position we were in last episode, just drinking random potions and hoping that they help you. This Orc Warrior, I just wanted to make sure that I was at full mana before I fought him. Looks like he has some javelins, so he has a ranged attack. It's not great because I was intending on Conjure Flaming. He probably doesn't have unlimited javelins though, and they're also maybe weaker than a hit with a sword. Yeah, 20 damage plus longsword. He just hit us for 14. That's a lot harder than I want. I think we'll still be okay to take him though. If our health gets to half, I'm going to run away. Yeah, I think he's out of javelins. What an idiot. He's dead. Okay, great. Now I'm going to eat you. That's what you get for dying. You get eaten by a dragon man. Okay, this is a water moccasin. He is very venomous, and we do not have poison resistance. And we are right next to him because we rounded the corner, so I'm just going to use Sticky Flame. Actually, let me see how fast he is. Yeah, he is fast, that's what I thought. So he's going to move a little more quickly than us, but I still think the way to go here is going to be Sticky Flame and walk back, just because Yeah, he can still hit us as we run away, but he's not going to hit us as much as if we were standing next to him. So pretty easy to kill him with Sticky Flame. He does hit pretty hard, so it was definitely worth using the Sticky Flame. There's that ghost again. We're going to back up. Sticky Flame does not work on ghosts because they don't have like a body, you know, to stick the flame to. Otherwise, I would probably just kill him with Sticky Flame. But that's not a choice, so it's going to have to be the Conjure Flame and Flame Tongue method of killing, I believe. We might not have enough mana to pull it off, but I'm going to give it a shot because he has no way to fight back. There is nothing he can do about this. Well, except he can do that. Let's look at how much damage he can do. If he stands in this fire, he will take a lot of damage, but he can also hit for up to 15. I think that's going to make it safe for us to just stand here until we get to, I'd say if he hits us down to like 35-ish health, that's when I'm going to go ahead and call it quits. But him standing inside the Conjure Flame will hurt him a lot. And we're also going to keep shooting him with Flame Tongues. So as you can see, every turn he was engulfed in flames and he just took a ton of damage. He had over 70 health and he died pretty quickly in there. So it's pretty good. Conjure Flame is a very, very powerful spell, defensively and offensively sometimes. Things are going pretty well in this run, other than the fact that we're a white Draconian, but I am starting to get kind of worried that we still don't have any spells other than the ones we started with. Sif Muna will start to give us books before too long, so we can kind of look and see how that works. We have to have a lot of piety before she'll give us books, but when we get there, she'll give us a lot of spell books. In the meantime, all she's really doing is giving us 1 power will give you energy. So let's look at what that does. You basically activate it. It does not take a turn, so it's a free action. And when you do, you get to cast a spell for free, but it turns off your spell casting for a little bit. So it's sort of like I don't have any mana left, kind of a last resort, I need to cast a spell ability, but it does not cost piety. So the only cost is that you lose access to your magic for a little bit. So it's a pretty good tool. I like it a lot. The cooldown on it is not very long either. So it doesn't take away your magic for super long. It can be risky if you do it at the wrong time, for sure. But in general, it's pretty good. I went ahead and memorized Fireball, even though we're probably still going to have to switch from Fire Magic. 1, because we're still increasing conjurations, so our Fireball will get better. And 2, we're using Sif Muna, so it's really easy for us to forget spells. If we had gone Vehumet, I would be a little pickier about what spells I memorize, but Sif Muna will allow us to basically switch out spells as much as we want. It just costs a little piety to do it. I'm going to hit this Wyvern with a Sticky Flame because it's a decently strong enemy. He earns a Sticky Flame. This is a zombie. I'll just hit him with some Flame Tongues. Sometimes mindless enemies are still smart enough to go around Cloud of Fire if there are other options. Sometimes they're not, so that was the easiest way to kill him. Yeah, so we're doing all right here. Without access to non-fire spells, we will eventually get into trouble. Let's talk about him in a second. But we should be okay doing just conjurations for a while longer. This will get us through the parts of the dungeon we're going to do soon, and even a bit of Lair. But if we don't get different spells by the time we're finished with Lair, then that's going to start to be a problem. Okay, so this is a unique. Maurice, the Thief. He can turn invisible, he can blink, he can steal items even, so he's kind of annoying. Unfortunately for him, we have Sticky Flame, which means he can't turn invisible anymore, at least not while it's on. See, it says he flickers and vanishes for a moment, but only a moment because he's covered in fire. He just drank a potion of healing. I'm going to refresh Sticky Flame even though it's still on him. Normally I would not do this because it would waste a little bit of the Sticky Flame that's still there. But he's invisible, so I need it to be on all the time, because if he's invisible and then he blinks, I won't know where he is. I want to make sure I know where he is and that he is constantly on fire. So refresh the Sticky Flame, back up a bit, He's about to die. Just one more reason to love Sticky Flame. It's a cloak. Let's wear the cloak. Give us another armor. That is a troll. We have almost no mana, so we're going to back up and rest. We don't really want to be in that corner. Now he sees us. This is not ideal, but I think if we go up here and then block this area with a Conjure Flame, then we can create enough distance to get to the stairs safely. Oh, it's an ogre. That's not what I was hoping for. Okay, let's do it like this then. He'll have to go around. We'll go upstairs with the ogre. He's going to be able to get some free hits on us, and I don't like that. But it's going to be better than staying here and giving that troll a chance to catch up with us. Troll is even scarier than the ogre. I'm going to use Sticky Flame and then run away. He's still alive, but not for very much longer. Ogres have very bad evasion, and so every once in a while you might miss when you attack an ogre, but you can feel pretty confident that if you're shooting something at an ogre that it's probably going to hit the ogre. They're basically like the side of a barn. A -2 Ring of Intelligence. No thank you. We have some other scrolls that aren't ID'd, but only one stack that's more than one. So again, I'm pretty much only going to read scrolls if I have more than one, until I have so many ID scrolls that I can ID the other ones. Just because I don't want to waste a really good scroll, and if I get into a very desperate situation, I want to be able to read unidentified scrolls and maybe I'll get blinking or something. But if I read it now and I was like, oh, now I have blinking, if I knew what blinking was but I had no scrolls of blinking, that doesn't really help me, right? So I basically just want to always wait until I have more than one scroll, or I have so many ID scrolls that I'm willing to use them on scrolls, if that makes sense. This is a Scorpion. He probably doesn't merit a Conjure Flame. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. I will hit him with Frost Breath, though. Let's see, these guys have been sleeping through a lot. Little porcupines. Let's go ahead and burn them to death. Porcupines, if you're a melee class, can be scarier than you would guess, because you're like, oh, porcupine, you know, whatever. But they hit you back when you hit them. But we're not hitting them in melee, so that doesn't really matter. This two-headed ogre up here with a giant club is going to hit pretty hard, which is why I'm going to use our Conjure Flame method of murdering. Like so. He decided to walk into the fire. So we want to think about this. He's going to hit for... He's got two heads, so he can swing two weapons, you know? So he can hit for 15 plus Giant Spiked Club and 20 plus Giant Spiked Club. He is sitting in this fire, but gosh, that amount of damage makes me really nervous. I think what I want to do here is hit him with a Sticky Flame and then run away. Even though he was inside that fire, I did not want to stand next to him, and I think that was the safe way to do it. We were able to even if he had hit us with like the maximum possible damage, he was not going to one-shot us at full health. But I didn't want to give him more than one turn to be next to me, so that's why I did it that way. Because he was asleep, I just backed up to create a little more distance. Always a good idea when you can. We're up to Conjurations 13. I think we probably want more defense, but just because I need other spellbooks so badly, and we need Sith Moon of Piety to get those, I'm going to keep leveling up magic. It just seems like the thing to do. I really want to make sure that I can get some other non-fire options online before too long. And the sooner that I can start training whatever spell school I want to use, the better it's going to be. I basically decided to soften up that troll with Flame Tongues and then use Sticky Flame. So even if you want to use Sticky Flame on, say, a more powerful enemy, that doesn't mean you want to get next to them necessarily. You can let them come to you and hit them with ranged attacks in the meantime. So a lot of times that's a good idea. After we finish clearing dungeon level 8, I'm going to go ahead and stop this episode. So again, as per the usual, if you have anything you want to see, if you have a question or you're curious about something, just let me know and I'm sure we'll get it figured out. I'm going to block off this doorway. Now, this guy has a ranged weapon. Well, not ranged, it's a glaive, so it has reach. which means that if I were one space forward right here, he'd still be able to hit me. So that's why I positioned myself back here, and then I used Conjure Flame. So now he can't hit me, and I can still unload on him safely. You don't want to underestimate Orc Warriors. You might see your regular Orcs and think like, oh, those guys were really easy to kill, so this guy will be pretty easy too. No. Orc Warriors are way, way stronger than regular Orcs. And they also tend to spawn with better equipment, so you want to be careful about that. That's it for episode number 2. I hope you guys learned something. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to toss me a like or a subscribe or a comment. I guess you could thumbs down if you really want to, but I don't like that, so maybe choose not to do that. Up to you. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.